Good morning. Active investigation, heavy police presence since about 5:30 this morning as authorities continue to investigate why there was a shootout here, which left 3 authorities injured, and the suspect is confirmed to have died. So it is still a very busy scene. We have video from up in the sky, from on the ground. We want to show you that video right now. Shots were fired on Eli Avenue around 5:30 this morning. 2 U.S. Marshals and 1 NYPD officer were shot and injured in a shootout with a suspect in this section, this Wakefield section of the Bronx. Now, according to police, a regional task force of deputy marshals, state troopers, and NYPD received a tip that a person was wanted for a shooting a Massachusetts state trooper. The suspect was wanted here in the Bronx. As authorities were executing a warrant for the suspect, the shootout began. 2 marshals and 1 NYPD detective were rushed to Jacoby Hospital for treatment of non-life-threatening injuries. They are all expected to be okay. Again, police confirm the suspect is dead. Police also say a second suspect was being taken to Jacoby Hospital and is expected to face criminal charges. Neighbors in this Wakefield section of the Bronx are overwhelmed over the violent exchange involving federal authorities.
Because we don't know what's going on down there. We didn't have this in our neighborhood. We live here how many years?
It's crazy that we made it get that far. Like, why did he react that way? Why did he even come over here?
Yeah, I know the shooting over here.
And you can see it is still a very active crime scene here behind me. Police officers have been lining the streets of this area since early on this morning. The police crime tape is still put up. So if you are planning on getting to this Wakefield section this morning, you can expect delays there as several blocks around Eli Avenue are blocked off this morning. We're live in the Wakefield section of the Bronx. Rebecca Solomon, PIX11 News.
Good reporting this morning, Rebecca. Thank you very much for the update. Let's get over to Anthony DiLorenzo now, who is still live outside of Jacoby Medical Center with an update on those marshals and an NYPD detective's condition. Anthony, good morning.
Good morning, Dan. We've just heard now for the first time from the U.S. Marshals Service, and they tell us that those 2 marshals are still being treated here for gunshot wounds to their leg and arm. One of the bullets narrowly missing an artery to one of those marshals' legs, and he had to undergo emergency surgery this morning. We're also hearing that an NYPD detective from the 47th precinct is here being treated after suffering a leg injury during that pre-dawn raid. We have seen members of the U.S. Marshals Service and law enforcement here keeping vigil outside Jacoby Medical Center's ER as these officers recover. They were all met with that gunfire while trying to arrest a suspect at a home wanted for shooting a Massachusetts state trooper last month. Earlier this morning, we saw this. Medics rushing a man who lives at the Eli Avenue shooting scene here to the hospital with a head wound. Police sources have identified him as Grant Granderson. They believe he was helping the suspected cop shooter hide out here in the Bronx. Granderson will be charged with harboring a fugitive. We spoke exclusively to the president of the Detectives Union, who said that his detective suffered a leg injury during this melee and that it's all part of a very dangerous job.
Well, detective is a seasoned, well-versed detectives on executing warrants for fugitives. They responded to the scene and they were met with gunfire. 2 marshals were struck and one of our detectives was injured and being treated right now in the hospital.
To be clear, we don't know if the detective was actually shot or he suffered some other injury.
That's correct. We're still waiting to determine that.
And this now is an image of the suspect who was shot and killed. His name is Andre K. Sterling. He was killed during the raid this morning. The 35-year-old was wanted for shooting Trooper John Lennon on November 20th in Hyannis on Cape Cod after being pulled over for a busted taillight. The trooper survived with just a hand wound, and Sterling was on the run ever since. Good news here, all of the officers are expected to recover, and Grant Granderson is still being treated here. Once he's released, he'll be locked up. Reporting live in the Morris Park section of the Bronx, I'm Anthony DiLorenzo, PIX11 News.
All right, Anthony, good job out there this morning.